Hey, this is Fred from the House of Fly, and it is springtime in Montana, and that means stillwater fishing along the Rocky Mountain front. We are blessed with a variety of reservoirs and smaller potholes that are full of big trout. And when the ice first goes out in the spring, those fish are really accessible in shallow water and become a great location for targeting some pretty big trout. So I want to talk today a little bit about some of the tactics and flies that we're using to catch those fish. When the ice first goes out, first week or so, the fish tend to be pretty aggressive, and one of the key ways to catch them is to use these balanced leeches. This particular color has been an absolute killer on many of our local waters. Frequently we have a significant amount of wind on the front, and fishing this leech under an indicator, usually the medium-sized Oros, running it anywhere from 3 to 5 feet deep is what it takes to catch those fish. Casts don't need to be very long. Those fish can be cruising anywhere from 5 to 20 feet from shore. The wind makes them feel comfortable getting in nice and tight toward the banks, and it can be pretty fun just to throw that indicator out there, let it bob in the waves, and watch it disappear and pull on some big trout. Then as the weather and the season changes a little bit, we'll oftentimes switch from the balanced leech to some of smaller nymphs. These little pheasant tails, that little black soft tackle, and just the old standard natural color with a soft tackle. When the fish get a little fussier and they're not as aggressive on the big leech, these can work very well. When the wind's blowing, they work also well under the indicator. But if the wind calms down, then we'll often switch tactics and begin to strip those flies. So there's kind of a theme. When you have wind, the indicator can work really well, and when it calms down, we typically switch over to casting and retrieving. So some of the flies that we like to cast and retrieve, we'll use our weighted nymphs. We will sometimes use our leeches, whether they're balanced or just on a straight shank style. And then we will often use, if the fish are in real shallow water, some little unweighted hare's ears. That one can be deadly. Or some unweighted leeches, like that little swimming leech right there. And what I find the best way to fish those nymphs as far as stripping goes, I like to do a real short and a rather quick little strip. Most of our back swimmers, boatmen, mayfly nymphs, they're not swimming in long, movements. They're just short little pulses. So stripping is a real key, getting the proper strip with the fly. If you switch over to using the leeches, which actually I think more often simulate minnows than leeches, especially in the early part of the season, then you can do a little bit of a longer strip and also give that strip a pause. A lot of times you take a strip, pause, and on your next strip you will find that the fish has eaten your fly on the pause, and your next strip becomes the hooking strip. So quite a variance between weather patterns. Again, calm, you can do the stripping technique. When it's really windy, you can use the indicator. And then one other organism that we fish quite a bit are the chironomids. A lot of people just call them gnats if they're not familiar with aquatic life, but when you get out on the water and the wind's not blowing, you'll see these guys in the air. They're frequently called buzzers because if it's really calm, you can hear the buzzing of millions of these little midges buzzing around. And just a good old number 12 black silver wire white bead is a good one. And these are generally best hung under an indicator, and you really don't need to move them much. Just let it sit still, let the fish find it. These things swim straight off the bottom. If you're not getting any action on a straight hang down, then just give it little bumps every once in a while, just so they has a slight bit of movement. But you don't need to swim these horizontally in the water column because they generally swim from bottom to top before they hatch. And then that little ice cream cone, the red body, can also be a really good one. So the weather really dictates the flies that you're going to be using, the aggressive nature of the fish. When the ice first goes out, they'll hit almost anything, so we often give them the bigger leeches. And then as we get a little later in the season and they've been fished over a little bit, they usually seem to opt for the smaller flies. But the key is fishing them on that little strip. If you have any questions about stillwater fishing, we love to talk about it. We're usually running 2x tippet with the bigger flies and 3x with the nymphs. We've got all the stuff at houseoffly.us. Reach out to us. Let us know what you're catching them on if you didn't see it here. And tight line.